Yeah, subscribe to the channel. She will get a job in a special way, and Yulia didn't manage to do it. But where will she get an internship if she only finished the university? These employers are strange. They need experienced specialists from all over the world. She tried to understand and comply with their requirements. But she will not build space rockets, but plant. But does it really not make any sense? Moreover, there is a weighty folder with a portfolio. All its features are visible. But no, it still doesn't fit. Because it just doesn't fit. Even argued his refusal with a cynical statement that, let's say, she found these pictures on the internet and as her own. Well-bred girl could not stand it and bit herself. You show me on the internet at least one. I will eat all this folder in front of you. But the cashier did not seek the necessary to discuss with her, and calling the secretary, ordered to conduct a search. No, these owners in life she never understand. Julia was so desperate to get a job that she agreed to a lower salary just to take. She was tired of counting the pennies, refusing even in modest girls' joys, like cakes or a beautiful hair clip. But she still didn't want to survive a difficult period in the trade. If she gets caught there, then for a long time, goodbye, beloved work which she dreamed of since school. That day she was staying at home and was almost late for the interview. Her favorite happy skirt, which Yulia always put on when she hoped for success, did not fasten at all. After the effort, the girl's lock finally ordered to live long, leaving her hand with a broken runaway. Tears fell. Yulia began to review her clumsy wardrobe in the hope of learning something more or less suitable and not demanding. There was no time to be in a hurry. They were of a classic cover, without any decorations, and could quite satisfy any dress code. Running out of the entrance, the girl almost stretched out on the very threshold. The tile covered with wet snow played a cruel joke with her. Julia barely held onto her feet, and overpowering the pain in her hip, she stalled towards the stop. No, if everything is against me, then it is probably not worth going to the interview. She was thinking desperately. She didn't have any luck in the morning. But then she took herself in her hands, knowing that she would regret not going. No, whatever happens, if I leave the house, then I will go where I was going. Even the weather did not settle into the girl optimism. Yesterday, the first snow this year melted overnight, turned into a nasty wet mud, gray and unpleasant to the eye. It was gloomy, dull, and damp. If she didn't hope to get a job, she wouldn't have left the house. She wouldn't have lived under a warm blanket, hugging a cat with a muzzle. She wouldn't even have gone for bread. She would have lived anyway. But the muzzle should be fed, and not today. Tomorrow, she will have to share her potatoes with her. The girl didn't know if the cats were eating potatoes. When she came to the stop, Yulia began to look at the schedule of the routes. Most likely, he doesn't have time. She turned to the bench to sit down and paid attention to the old man sitting on it. He was crying, and suddenly raised his eyes full of despair at her. Tears flowed down his cheeks. Julia was scared. Suddenly something terrible happened to the old man. She came up. "Grandpa, what's wrong with you?" When he tried to talk, she realized that his strength was already at the end. Although he was warmly dressed, his hands were trembling from the cold. He must have been sitting on this bench for a long time and had time to pee. How many old people need their blood circulation if they are warmly wrapped in summer? From the head of Julia, everything that concerned her life went away. There is only one thought left. If she does not help this elderly man, he will soon die from overcooling on this bench. She decidedly took him by the ice and said, "Let's go warm up." Not far from the stop there was a cafe where the girls sometimes came to drink incredibly tasty coffee. That's where she went with her grandfather. He did not resist, did not say anything. He found it without any trouble next to his supporting girl. It was crowded in the cafe. The weather did not allow the store to go for the necessary, not to walk in the cafe. Having put the old lady at the table in the depths of the hall, she sat across the hall. She asked the waiter to bring her hot tea with lemon, a couple of sandwiches for her grandfather, and ordered coffee with croissant for herself. When the old man found a teapot with a hot drink, he immediately put his cold hands on it and sighed with relief. Julia drank coffee and patiently waited for her companion to come to her senses and tell her what had happened. Having warmed up with tea and eaten sandwiches, The old man said that his name was Yevgeny Petrovich and that he had recently moved to this city. His son brought him from the village here. I didn't want to go. I told him that I would die at home, and he didn't leave me at such an age without any supervision. And that's it, the whole conversation. My good son is caring. The old man even got a warm look when he told about his son. My Igor, we have a late child, the only one. My wife gave birth when she was already. We grew up a good person. I just didn't want to live in the village after school. I went to the city to study, and there I stayed. He called us to his old lady all the time. Yes, we didn't want to. What kind of household we had? Well, how can we leave our home where we lived our lives? While we were together, Igor was suffering from our refusal. And when I buried Sonia, my beloved wife, a traitorous tear appeared in a deep wrinkle in the eye. Then the son is no longer. I will not leave you, father, here alone and point. I understand him. Business does not leave his to come to me and take care. He was worried that I was alone there. I have nothing to do, he agreed, so that his son would not be upset. I have been living in this city for the second week, whether he is unhappy with his bunch of streets. I wanted to please his favorite pastries from the oven today. Seeing Julia's surprised eyes, he smiled. Yes, my daughter, we did not have a division in our family for male and female work. I could stab a firewood and stand at the stove. And when my Sonia was sick for a long time before death, I was busy preparing the dishes, better than any other housewife. So I went to the store to get some flour and got lost. I was wandering, and probably even further from home. I sat on the bench, and I don't know what to do. I didn't even remember the street on which our house is. If it weren't for you, my daughter, I would have died on that bench. I froze. I was desperate to get out of here. I also left my phone at home. My son ordered me to always take him with me, and I thought that it would not take long to carry him with me. And what should I do now? Do not worry, please. We will find your son. Maybe you have remembered some kind of attraction that is near your house? What attraction? There are many cars, few trees. That's an attraction for me. Yes, we will not find your house with this. Is your house high? Oh, very high. I raise my head to look up. Who throws it back? In my head, Yulia, one thought flashed. What color is your house? Yes, it's bright, so bright that my eyes are cutting. And who came up with this? I seem to know where you live. Let's do this. Now, let's go to me. You need to lie down and rest. And I'll try to find your Igor. Deal? Grandpa agreed to go. He didn't want to go outside at all. He froze to the bone. He agreed to go anywhere, even to this unfamiliar girl, just not back to the bench. At that moment, Julia didn't think at all whether to leave a stranger in the house. There, after all, the only value is her mink. But she has such a character that she will not go to any one of them. And I doubt that the old man, tormented by his adventures, could do anything. Having arranged Yevgeny Petrovich more comfortably on the couch and covering him with his favorite blanket so that he could warm up and sleep, she said, "You just wait for me. Please don't go anywhere. Promise me when I come back, I'll stay here with you." He only answered, "Thank you, daughter," and looked her in the eye with gratitude. The girl knew well about the new height of the parrot species. Grandpa went far away, and he overcame 2 stops. What will he do next when he finds this house? Julia has not yet thought. She decided that he would figure it out on the spot. When she came to the entrance of the house, she saw the commandant's room through the glass door. In many expensive houses, the Andes of the pension species, suspiciously watching the incoming and outgoing, are sitting at the entrance. Usually these ants know everything and about everyone. Julia was delighted. The police officer can help her. To her surprise, a nice woman was sitting outside the window, not older than. She looked up at the knitting and answered the question to the girl that yes, they have such a grandfather, and his son is named Igor Evgenievich, and they live in the TH apartment. Only there is no one. The man is at work, and the old man left somewhere in the morning, and still hasn't returned. Grandpa, I have it. He's lost it. Do you have anything to write to him? Please tell Igor and Evgenievich that we are waiting for him. Let him not worry. Having given the woman a piece of paper with the address and phone number, Julia hurried home. She was a little worried that her unguided guest would not start looking for new adventures after resting. and she was right to be nervous. Because on the doorstep of the apartment, she was met by the smell of fried potatoes and some loud noises from the kitchen. Quickly taking off the coat and shoes of the hostess, the girl hurried there. A rather cute picture appeared in front of her. Yevgeny Petrovich abruptly stirred a rather voluminous amount of fried potatoes on the frying pan. On the table, a Merzilka was sitting and happily bending her back. When the old man found time to spend with her. "When did you manage to make friends?" Yulia asked, surprised, entering the kitchen. "She's wild, isn't she?" "Yes, I've been dealing with animals all my life. They feel me." Yevgeny Petrovich smiled and stroked the mink again. She even grinned with pleasure. Yulia was even offended. Her cat didn't always go to her, and then a completely stranger person. "And we're here with your Morka." "I don't know the cat's name." The old man gave her the name he got used to at home. "We decided to cook you something to eat." The appetite ran up. "Thank you," said Yulia. She was really hungry, and the smell of potatoes was awful. "And what did he put in her that it smells so bad?" "And I found your son. That is, not his, but your house. Igor is at work, so stay with me until he comes to you. Don't you miss me? We are happy to visit you, right, Merzilka?" But the cat was not ready to be a host. Grandpa stroked her again. "Thank you, daughter. Your beauty is called Merzilka. Why didn't you admit it to me?" The cat turned to him. "I asked her name, and she is all Murdermore. So I thought that Morka smiled." "You eat potatoes with onions?" "I found a couple of onions in the fridge." Now Yulia understood where the divine smell of fried potatoes comes from. A banal onion, and how delicious it smells. "What's so empty in your fridge, daughter? Are you hungry?" the old man asked, when they already arranged for a table in front of the frying pan with fragrant potatoes. "Yes, it happened. The institute has just finished. I can't find a job. I want to do it on purpose, but no one takes it without experience. Where do I get this experience from?" So we interrupt Merzilka with random earnings, and almost everyone goes to the rent. "Well, it's okay. After the black belt, the white always comes." The girl waved her hand. "Let's find a job where she can make a living from us." "Yes, Merzilka?" She didn't really want to cry in front of a stranger. She answered his question, and that's enough. She turned the conversation to something else. They had already eaten, and the girl was washing the dishes when they called the door. Having opened the door, Julia saw a young man, years old, who was wearing a loose coat. "Hello, I'm Igor. I was told that my father is with you." Having heard his voice, Yevgeny Petrovich went out to the hallway. Being excited, he forgot to ask for permission to enter. The young man rushed to him, began to hug him. "But you're cutting me without a knife. I asked you to take the phone with you." Okay, don't grumble." The old man clapped on his shoulder. "It's all over. I will not repeat this again." "Of course not repeat, because I will stab you in the leg of the bed, so that you sit at home and don't run in the streets." He laughed, clapped on the shoulder of his father, and turned to the lady of the apartment and said, "Thank you very much. I don't even know how to thank him. He's so ungrateful that I need a child. I need him right now. I will definitely make him sleep in my bed." He happily turned to his father. "Get ready. How much can you abuse the hospitality of a girl?" Having closed the door behind the men, Yulia suddenly remembered about the unsolved conversation. She thought that no one would regret that it had happened. There will still be conversations, but no one could help the grandfather. The next day, she was in no hurry. It was Saturday, and most of the company was on a weekend, so the search for work was postponed to Monday. Suddenly, they rang the doorbell. Julia was still in bed, decided not to open it, but the visitor was not going to give up so easily. Again, the bell rang more persistently. After breathing, the girl threw her dress, went out to the hallway, and opened the door. In front of her stood her yesterday's random acquaintance Igor Evgenevich. In his hands was a huge bouquet of roses. "Hello," he said, stretching her bouquet. "Let me in?" Not understanding anything, Julia let the young man into the hallway, took the flowers. "Thank you," only she could say, inhaling an incredible drinking smell of fresh roses. "Julia," the visitor turned to her. "We parted yesterday so carelessly, I didn't even have time to get to know you better. And then I regretted it, because there are very few such kind and responsive people like you now. My dad told me everything about his adventure. A lot of people passed by him before you, but no one paid attention to the old man. If it weren't for you, I could have lost him. Therefore, I want to thank you and invite you to visit me. Father said that you liked his strip loin very much yesterday. He has golden hands. He will do better than a professional for anything he doesn't take. And he is now waiting for us together for his signature dumplings. Refusal is not accepted. You don't want to upset a person whose life was saved yesterday, do you? No. Of course she didn't want to. Especially since yesterday, she noticed what a cute son Yevgeny Petrovich had. So, having brought the guest to the living room, she began to get herself in order. And a year later, Julia and Igor were getting married. And they, sitting at the festive table, next to the one shining with their own significance in this event, Eugene Petrovich, in love and happy, suddenly remembered that gloomy November day, which became for each of them the beginning of a new life.